where we're jumping into the housing market update.
Who's hot on the
All right, so you all know I'm Rachel Brantingham. A little background: I've been in real estate for over a decade here in this area. Of course, I grew up in construction, so watched the housing market in our industry, stood next to my dad in business through the housing crash and crisis back in 2008 and 2009. So, all that to be said, I got a little bit of information to share with you guys. Everything that I share comes directly from the Heart of Kentucky MLS, specifically focused on the last week, but of course, we measure the last 30 days. I want to start by directing you guys to the Hardin local website. There is a housing market tab that actually maps the trends. I had someone reach out to me and was like, "We love your information that you share. Is there any way to see the data that's been collected over the last 6 months so we can actually see where we're at as far as those trends?" And so I just want to make sure everybody knows hardinlocal.com, click on the housing market update. There are some really cool graphs there that spell out the numbers that I share with you weekly so you guys can kind of see how the market is adjusting. And I want to kind of go through our numbers. The market is very stable. And by stable, I mean it's not really a buyer's market or a seller's market. We are really sitting in a place where it's all about pricing. It's all about placing your property at a smart sales number, and condition is very, very important right now. And also understanding that at different price points, your house is probably going to take a little bit longer. And for buyers, understanding that having 20 or 30 days on market doesn't make anything wrong with the property. It simply is just part of the housing market today. This week in Hardin County, we saw 23 new homes come to the market. 23 homes went under contract, and 20 families moved into their new homes. We currently have 416 active listings. Interesting information. That's pretty steady in comparison to last week. We were seeing it climb rather rapidly, and so this is more of a steady a listing since the past couple weeks. We have 113 homes sold over the last 30 days, 82 days average on market. We're climbing now. So we were down in the 70s for a significant amount of weeks, probably 8 weeks in a row. We were in the 70s. We have now gone up into the 80s. Of course, some of that is due to the holidays, but I would imagine we'll be there or higher for the rest of the year. Reasoning for that, of course, next up, kids go back to school, sports begin. Then we head into the holiday season, and then we're in the cold months of winter. So that 80 plus is kind of expected, even in a stable, consistent market condition. Average list price came in at $354,650. Average sold price $324,035. So we've continuously seen that gap tighten. I think what we're actually going to find on today's graph is that gap has expanded a little bit. There's more of a gap there in comparison to how there was a couple weeks ago. But once again, as days on market increases, that gap is kind of understood and expected because you have longer days on market. And so buyer perception is that they can get a little bit of a better deal. So when people are making you a little bit more of an aggressive offer on your property, just know they're not trying to insult you. They're probably being counseled by an agent in the background who's saying, "Hey, your home has been on the market for this amount of time." Now, that's not across the board. We are still seeing properties at all price points go pending very, very close to list price. Median sold price is currently in Hardin County, $290,000. So a few things I want to break down. We have basically 5 different markets inside of Hardin County. And I'd like to run through these because depending on the price that you are buying and selling in, your experience is going to be impacted by these numbers. Okay. So under 250,000, which is underneath that median sale price in Hardin County, there are 93 active listings, 42 homes sold in the last 30 days, and that puts you at 2.2 months of inventory. So just know that is a seller's market, okay? They're going to probably get close to full price. You may or may not get repairs, closing costs, those kinds of things. So just know if you're entering the market at that price point, that is a seller's market currently. Between 250 and 400,000, we have 204 active listings as of today. 50 homes sold in the last 30 days, putting us at 4.1 months of inventory. 4.1 months of inventory puts us in a buyer leaning market. Okay, so buyers are going to have more power in that market. They're going to be able to ask for closing costs. They're going to be able to ask for repairs, might even get a little bit off the sale price. So just know you're searching between that 250 to 4, or planning to sell your house, or your house is active on the market. You need to look very specifically at list price. Probably need to be a little bit more aggressive than maybe you expected to be with the amount of inventory that's available in that price point. Between 400 and 600,000, we have 92 active listings on the market. Only 12 homes sold in the last 30 days, putting us at a lot of inventory, 7.7 months of inventory. This is dramatically a buyer's market, okay? So if you are marketing a property between 4 and 600,000, just know you're going to have to be very favorable for buyers. You're going to have to adjust your sales price, probably offer rate buy downs, offer closing cost support, etc., because there's just not a lot of inventory moving in that category. Between 6 and 800,000, we have 16 active listings, 7 homes sold. So actually, it's weird because that lower price point, slow moving, but then between 6 and 800, we've only got 2.3 months of inventory available on the market. So once again, back to a seller's market. Luxury market, that's anything over 800,000, 13 active listings, 3 homes sold in the last 30 days, putting us at a very balanced market. It's actually not a buyer or a seller market. So very, very balanced there, which is surprising because, of course, you're getting into your 1 million plus in that category. And so the expectation is typically that those homes are taking longer to sell. However, some of this time of year, we're seeing some of that shift. We're actually seeing some of those more expensive homes move. So, and there's very little inventory in that price range. So if you are considering selling and you want to give it a shot, it doesn't hurt to put your house on the market, test the market condition. And, with the 4.3 months of inventory, probably have a good shot at getting it sold at this point. All right, guys, value, of course, is winning. So you want to make very sure that the property, before even listing, it stands out from its peers. What I'm coaching my agents on right now is you, of course, look at sold properties because that's what appraisers use to evaluate a value of a property. So you want to look at 6 months and about a 10-mile radius to determine value for an appraiser. And you want to compare it as close as possible, apples to apples. But the most important thing to me right now with the amount of inventory that we have available is to analyze your competition, right? You want to look at the active homes in your price point, in your area, in your neighborhood to kind of determine how you need to stand out from the rest because there's just a lot of inventory sitting. So ask your agent, are you guys looking at active inventory? And then, of course, I always like to take a glance at what's pending because those are the sellers who have actually successfully turned the page and are headed to the closing table. So that's a great way to analyze your listing strategy. To kind of wrap this up, I think it's about positioning right now for both buyers and sellers. I would take an analysis of, as a buyer, I would take an analysis of the property prior to offering. And if it has everything you need and is in excellent condition, we're still in certain price points in a seller's market. So I would go after it and I would take that opportunity to purchase that home. However, if you're a seller, and I think it's all about positioning again, I think it's about curb appeal, it's about the property condition, and most importantly, it's about your sale price. I'm going to continue watching very carefully inventory. That's something I'm interested to see and how it performs, especially as we head into kind of the slower months of school being back in and then the holiday season. So I'm interested to see if inventory continues to rise or if it kind of plateaus with people not even wanting to sell their homes during the busy season. So we will keep an eye on that. The Hardin County housing market isn't really rewarding urgency anymore. It's rewarding value. Buyers are willing to act quickly when they find the right home, but sellers must earn confidence through pricing, preparation, and presentation. All right, guys, I will see you next week for the housing market update. All right, I think it's time for my favorite segment because I'm a foodie and I love food. Britton, is Michelle joining us this week, or do we just have you?